Regions.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's Monday, the 7th of March of 2016, and tonight is the Board of Education workshop. And I'm going to let Dr. Wilson kick us off, and I'm going to also invite the members of the board, if you want to move over to those chairs so we can see the presentation, to do that now. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
I'll be with you in a minute. Everybody's leaving, I don't know. So anyway, I'll just be very brief. This is a very important workshop tonight, because you might say this is kind of what it's all about. We've been presenting workshops all year on the progress of the strategic plan and the effectiveness of various programs and the like. But tonight is about student performance, student outcomes. This is often presented under the banner of the annual district report card, based on state testing and certain other measures that become common reference points to judge from year to year how kids are doing. So there's that aspect of it, but folded in, we're also doing a 2-for-1 here, because we're also reporting on those parts of the strategic plan that are aimed at improving outcomes. So this is one of the sections in the plan you may be familiar with, student outcomes and the annual report card, 2-for-1. And with that in mind, we're going to kick it off. Carl, I know, has more to explain, and then you'll be hearing from the principals as well.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Good evening, board members, and we have an audience. Some of our teachers are here, and we appreciate you being out. Once a year, we present a progress update on the data that our student performance reflects. This year, we're a little bit later. The state had embargoed the region's results, so we're a little bit later than usual. But the benefit of that is this year, for the first time, we have some comparative data on region's results. Now, the board has received this presentation in advance for a preview. We're going to walk you through it step by step this evening and speak to it at the end. We'll open it up for any questions that the audience may have. And then after the meeting, we will certainly post it on the district website for the public to view. As an introduction, I think it's important to kind of put at least the 3 through 8 testing in perspective. For 2014-2015, the New York State tested all districts across the state in English, language arts, and mathematics. The idea behind this assessment was to measure growth and progress towards the new Common Core standards. In theory, I think the state was trying to accomplish something that was very positive. But in their practical implementation, there was an awful lot of criticism amongst parents, amongst educators across the state. A lot of people think they moved too quickly. In other words, rolling out a curriculum and then right away rolling out a new assessment, people thought was a bit too much. The Common Core standards, when you analyze them as educators and as parents, they are very solid standards, and we do support those standards. Everyone is in favor of more rigor and higher standards for students. I think the problem occurred that the testing also became high stakes because it was tied to teacher and principal and school district evaluations. And I think a lot of people took issue with that. So last year, as you may recall, many parents refused to allow their students to sit for these exams. And the movement developed a name called opt-out, but there is no such option as opt-out. It officially is a refusal to take the test. And that percentage of students and parents varied from district to district. So responding to these concerns, the state agreed that there was validity to a lot of the complaints that were raised, and they had a lot of town hall meetings across the state, and they were very well attended, and there was some pretty significant criticism, but the state has made 3 major changes this year and moving forward, and I'm just going to summarize them. The first is they will have greater involvement of educators in the test development process. We think this is essential. We believe in it. In fact, Dr. McDonald has been a part of this and continues to follow it very closely, as well as the rest of our building administration and myself. Also, they are decreasing the number of test questions that students have to sit for in grades 3 through 8 ELA and math. And there is a very significant shift to untimed testing. Again, in previous years, there was always a time limit, and with these new tests, many students did not finish. And you have to question, are we really measuring what they know and what they understand when you have to pull a test paper away from a student who has not completed the assessment? So we're glad to see the state has made some changes and has been responsive to not only educators across the state, but to parents. But what we've done, and I think it's important, we still need to have data analysis. I mean, there is no question. We need to try to measure how we are progressing. And we believe one of the strongest ways to do that is to do a comparative study and look at other districts, similar districts. Now, that being said, similar districts can present a challenge for a small district like Tuckahoe. 5 years ago, the state, every year and in previous years, would identify similar schools, and they would look at socioeconomics and demographics and try to find schools that were similar, and that would be a fair comparison. Well, for the past 4 years, New York State stopped doing that. But we went back and looked at historical data, and we found that these similar schools, and in our experience, we believe demographics haven't shifted all that much, and we believe they are still similar. However, very few of them are the size of Tuckahoe. And our small student population, we believe, is something that needs to be considered when you're looking at the data. Of course, we consider it, and it makes us particularly vulnerable to swings from grade level to grade level. I'll give just one example. We'll look at classified students with individual education plans. So the highest grade level, we have 24 IEPs. The lowest grade level, we have 4. So it goes to show you, now district-wide, our classified students are between 11 and 12%, which is exactly in line with national statistics. However, because we're small, it can vary dramatically from grade level to grade level. That needs to be considered. Now, I'm only using that example, but it happens with our English language learners. It happens with socioeconomically disadvantaged students. When you go grade level to grade level, there can be significant differences in the needs on the grade level. That is not an excuse, but it is just a reality. And when you have a larger district, for example, one of our comparative districts is Mamaroneck. But Mamaroneck is 5 times the size, and there's less likelihood, and I see our math teachers nodding out there, so they certainly understand this, there's less likelihood that these percentages will vary from grade level to grade level. And that's just the point I think it's important to state up front. Also, one other thing that we noticed with the comparison schools, particularly at the high school level, most of them, not all, but most of them have a lower percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And that's one other important statistic to keep in mind. Now, I'll fast forward ahead to our enrollment. And we did something new this year. In addition to the enrollment, so you could see the differences, we also put the test participation rate. So this will give you an idea of how many students refuse to take the test, basically with their parents' directive. So take, for example, Cottle. We had 94 students average on a grade level in grades 3, 4, and 5, and 76%, or approximately 3/4 of the students, sat for the test, which means about 1/4 did not. But then you go to a place like Bedford, where 94% of the students in their elementary schools sat for the test. But then on Long Island, where this opt-out movement was particularly strong, Carl Place, just about half of the students took the test. So again, I won't go through each and every one, but it's important to know that it varied pretty dramatically in some cases from district to district. And again, it's important to keep that in mind. Now, this year, the good news is New York State is not going to count the test towards teacher evaluations and principal evaluations. And they've made these adjustments, so we anticipate that more parents will be willing to have their students sit for this test. We won't have these refusals, and we believe going forward we will have better data than we do this year. Now, Cottle Elementary School will be, and I'll invite each principal up one at a time, and they'll go over the data results from their school. But it's Cottle Elementary School, takes the English Language Arts test in grades 3, 4, and 5, the New York State Mathematics test in 3, 4, and 5, and on grade 4 only, the New York State Science test. So I'll invite my father, George Albano, up, and he'll go over his slides.
Okay, so first we're talking about students that scored a 3 or a 4, which is considered proficiency, or passing, I'm sorry. And you'll notice on grade 3 in the English language arts, 55% of our students scored a 3 or 4, which is basically above most of the districts that we have a comparative study to. If you look at grade 4, 74%, only one district outperformed us, and that's Franklin Square. And if you go to grade 5, 50% of our students scored a 3 or 4, and we're very proud of that in language arts. We've made tremendous progress, and we'll go into the reasons why we made, besides great teaching, but some of the curriculum changes at the end of this presentation. If you go into mastery, you'll see 9% in grades 3, 25% means they scored a 4, which is the highest you can get. And if you look at grade 5, it's 13%. And again, it's pretty much above the average school districts that we were compared to. Now we're going to go on to mathematics. And again, if you look in mathematics on grade 3, 66% of our students were passing with a 3 or 4, 90% in grade 4. And if you go to grade 5, it's 59%. And you can see how that compares to comparable districts. And remember, consider socioeconomic, size of the district, and students that opt out. And quite often, some of the parents that students are high performers opt out of the test, and they have a right to do that. Now we're going to go to mathematics for proficiency. Mastery, I'm sorry. For mastery, 43%. On grades 3, 57%. On grades 4, and you can see we just about outperformed the entire state. And on grade, not state, I'm sorry, the cluster. And on grade 5, 29%. So we're proud of that. Now we'll go into science, and again, I'll talk about what contributed to the success. 100% of our students were at 3 or 4 passing grades. If you go to mastery, 95% of our students achieved mastery. And I was looking at some of the children that Ellen called up on the stage, and they were very involved in our science program, the ones that were in the Olympia, so I was very, very proud of them. Okay? And now we're going to some of the initiatives that have been put in place in the last 5 years that resulted in better academic performance. First of all, I brought in a new literacy program. It was K-2. Last year, I expanded it K-5, and it's tied in with the state standards and allows all sorts of enrichment activities for the students, and it's called Reading Wonders by McGraw-Hill. Also, the Common Core libraries. Every class has its own library with leveled books where the students can read at their own level. And this year, the Writing Revolution workshop, our teachers are so excited about it. They've embraced it. And the young lady that read to you earlier in the auditorium, her teacher was using, she went for training a couple of years ago and was using that in 4th grade. And I think you saw the imagination, the alliteration, descriptive language, and that's what's amazing. And hopefully that'll be the norm for Tuckahoe. We continued the implementation of Envisions Mathematics, which is by Pearson. I brought that in a few years ago, and we've gotten great results. But also, it's not just what you're using in the classroom, it's what the children are exposed to day and night. And the Math 24, it basically costs about $6 a student. So for a couple of $1,000s, we have every one of our students in grades 2 through 5 doing online mathematics at home. And as we mentioned, last year it was about 1 million students at this time. This year we're well over 1.5 million students solving math problems at home for fun. They earn virtual stickers, and then they get little wristbands in the school, and we announced the top 10, which we did tonight at the meeting. Hands-on science. Every single grade, K through 5, does science experiments. I actually collect science folders from the teachers, and we want to see a minimum of several experiments following the scientific method, hypothesis, conclusion. And when you see the children that were interviewed, and Gary Miller, who's back here, made a wonderful tape of the Science Fun Day and Science Fair. You hear kindergartners saying, my hypothesis is, and I think that's what's amazing. So hands-on science, the science fair, which we had about 350 students participate in that this year, and then the Science Fun Day, which I partnered with the middle school, and we had about 220 children, which was a record for that particular activity. And IBM and our parents and our PTA just made this all possible. RTI, Response to Intervention, is ongoing, and that's through the leadership of Carl and what he's expecting of teachers to give children that need support, the extra support. Diagnosing students, 3 times a year we give the STAR assessments, so we actually monitor the progress of students, and it helps the teachers direct instruction to meet their needs. If you go to the next one, Academic Intervention Services, AIS, is ongoing at Carl School. Every one of my teachers, every couple of months, review children's IEPs and 504s. So there's no such thing as the art teacher or the music teacher or even the gym teacher saying, I didn't know. You'd have to know that's expected of you. If a child needs special modification or special support, again, through the directive of central office, our teachers meet, and we just finished meeting now 2 weeks ago, and the special ed team meets with them and discusses how you can make a child perform better by giving them the support they need. Faculty workshops, conferences, our staff has been very involved in them. The Chromebooks are amazing, their use of them. I do encourage children to write. I believe in developing motor skills. 3rd grade should not be printing by right now, and I do collect writing. They should be writing in script, and then we go into the Chromebook, which we use. And ensured deliverance of instruction, that's why a uniform program is so important. When I first came here, I found that was not the case. Because no matter who the teacher is, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 1st grade, they're all delivering the same curriculum and making sure they're covering the same material. So it's not that, one teacher is strong in mathematics, another teacher is strong in English language arts. Because we have a standard curriculum now, it's not left for chance, and that's called assured deliverance of curriculum. So I think we're making wonderful progress, and it's thanks to the central office, Dr. Wilson, Carl, and this amazing Board of Education. So thank you.
Good evening, I'm Dr. McDonald, principal of the middle school, and it is my pleasure to share with you not only what our results were this past year, but what are we doing about it, and what are we changing, and how are we growing. Just want to take a moment to try to paint a picture of how testing is different in a middle school than an elementary school, and this is not unique to Tuckahoe. What we find when you have middle schoolers show up for a state test, and some of their friends don't have to sit there and take the state test, the buy-in is different. In an elementary school, you typically will have students want to do their best because their teacher asked them to do their best. Could you just give me your best? And in middle school, they start to realize, but this score doesn't change my program. This score doesn't change what I can do. It's about you as a school, not about me as a student. And we did observe students throughout our testing be frustrated that they had to sit for it, and some of them not giving us their best. So not only did we have issues of students not taking the test at all, so at many of our cases, one student doing poorly is 2 percentage points of a drop, because less than 50 students actually took the test. But those who are actually sitting for the test may not be giving us their best. We do get all the data back afterwards, and I did have a student mark A for every single item on a particular test day. So that occurs. So we do have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We take English language arts. We also take math. And then we take one science test in 8th grade that covers science from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So it's a multi-year assessment. And as we go through it, I'll give you some ideas. And as Mr. Albano did at the end, we'll talk about what have we been doing with these results. So you'll see as we look at our results, we have a different group of similar schools than the elementary did. Again, this is from a list from 5 years ago that the state provided to us, because our middle school is a different size, and they tried to find schools that are similar. And what you will see is that our results in ELA are roughly in the middle of the pack of these similar schools. So you've got 36% hitting proficiency in 6th grade, 42 and 46. These are not numbers that we are proud of, right? These are not awesome results. And they are things that we have to think about, but they are all above the state average significantly. But they are in line with what we've had the last couple years. Most of them are actually above how we've performed. And as a school, we performed better in 2014-15 than the year prior. And our mastery levels, you can see them there, 19%, 6%, and 9%. In math, you'll see that, again, we're in some cases near the bottom, some cases we're near the middle. Our most successful year was in 7th grade math with 56% achieving mastery, and there's a shout out to Ms. Muska for that. She was our new 7th grade math teacher last year who came to us with years of experience from the city in teaching mathematics and hit the ground running with that group of students, and you can see the results there. Need to talk about Math 8 for a minute though. Right? Because you're staring at that and going, holy moly, what's going on there? That represents 27 children. It represents none of our advanced mathematics students. So in 8th grade, we had the option of whether our algebra students would take the 8th grade math assessment as well as the algebra assessment. And since they weren't taking 8th grade math, we said, let's go with just the algebra assessment. So you're looking at those students who are not accelerated in mathematics, and some of them also having a refusal to test, and those that were left behind not too thrilled to be in that room, quite honestly. So I would guess Rhinebeck did have their algebra students, since their bar is the highest. They probably had them take, I don't know, I haven't asked them. But we did not have our algebra students take that exam, and so you can see then that we also had no mastery at that level. This 19%, by the way, is practically triple the year before, just to give you a little reference. But our masteries were 26, 22, and we had no one master at the 8th grade level. What you would expect your algebra students would be those who master these tests, and they did not take that exam. In science, when you look at science, oh, sorry, we still have to do Common Core algebra. Sorry. So algebra is, for 8th graders, an accelerated course. So it's important to remember when the high school comes up to talk about their algebra results, we took all their best scores. Right, because we had the students take the course in the 8th grade. And so you'll see they did all pass it. And where we're going to work on growing is our mastery numbers, right? And that comes from, this is the first year, last year was the first year that our students had to take the Common Core algebra exam and did not have the option of taking the old integrated algebra exam. The year before, they could take both and higher score 1. So we are all learning an awful lot more about what it takes to master that. And when you look at 8th grade results of mastery on an algebra regents, you do not know how those schools selected the children for that course, right? So we do not know. We see the nice big right bar up there, Port Washington. Did they only 10 brightest kids sit for algebra? We don't know how they selected their pool. So it's very difficult in an advanced class to know what are you comparing to. Do they have open enrollment? Does everybody take it? You know, a lot more work would need to be done to interpret comparatively what's going on in those others. In science, you'll notice some bars are missing, right? So what that means is that those schools didn't have any child take the Science 8. There are schools that use Earth Science for All as their 8th grade course. There are schools that use Living Environment for All as their 8th grade course. And that then says they chose not to have their 8th graders take the 8th grade exam, because they could also choose just the high school regents or the science exam. We did have all of our 8th graders take the science exam this past year, but our Earth Science students weren't actually taking 8th grade science themselves, right? They were taking a specialized science of Earth Science. And so, but we wanted to see how we done, because remember, it's a multi-year exam. But they were missing some of the content. They didn't take actual 8th grade science. But we did have them get in there so we could see for a 3-year, you know, how we were doing. And so that's our, you know, our mastery on the 8th grade exam and how we did in terms of passing. So this is Earth Science, again, missing bars. So those missing bars didn't take Earth Science. It could have been a living environment, could have been a school that exclusively used the 8th grade exam, didn't have accelerated science in their 8th grade. And as you see, we do have 95% of our children pass the Earth Science exam. And then our mastery rate was about half of the students mastered it. And we'll talk about what we're doing about that, because that's another thing we wanna keep raising it up. So what are we doing? The first thing that we did this year was we worked with our teachers, and we're also doing this with our students in health classes, on the concept of mindset. So what we see in middle school students is we get them from elementary school, and they believe they all can learn. And throughout middle school is when they start to decide, well, I'm the smart one or I'm not the smart one. They start to define their academic selves into sort of notches. And what mindset training does is talks about how all of our minds can grow. A growth mindset, meaning we all can get more intelligent, we all can learn. There's a neurological process, a chemical neurological process that we can actually get more neurons to fire. It actually can happen, as opposed to I was born with a certain intelligence, that's just who I am. All right? And so we worked with our teachers on that, so that they can work with their students on, we're just not there yet, instead of I failed. It's a very big difference in how we talk about our growth and our learning. And we're doing the student component in our health classes. And what we're hoping is that over time, our students will believe more that they can learn and grow, and they will have the perseverance to keep at it and not give up. Writing Revolution has been mentioned already. This is going to change writing pre-K-12. In this district where it's so exciting, we've already been in every content area. These opening strategies are being used across our building, and holding students accountable to their written language in every content area is a huge game changer. We don't accept an answer of 6 in math class anymore, right? Well, he has 6 donuts because when Johnny gave away 2. He has 6 donuts, so that means that he could be twice as much. Like, they have to give more in every content area, even in art. I mean, everybody has embraced it, and we expect that that will happen. We apparently need to clean the filter. Gary, okay, it's on the display. So another thing we did is we took the data from the state tests at the micro level, at the item level, and we analyzed every single released item. They released about half of them, and started with the ones that our students performed the worst on, and built up and tried to identify what was going on in the item. Was it a content issue? Was it a wording issue? One of our biggest learnings in the math area, just to give you an example, was that a lot of the items our students were getting incorrect, the answer choices, we're talking multiple choice, looked different than the way a student would typically finish a problem. For example, if they had to simplify some algebraic expression, and when they worked it, it came out to 2x plus 4. That choice was not in the choices. 4 plus 2x was in the choices. And so we realized we have to spend more time with our students on equivalence and what are equivalent responses. What's another way to say this same answer, so they don't panic when they look at the choices and say, my answer's not here. I must have done something wrong. Let me start over and now get the problem wrong because they're actually changing how they're doing their work. So that was something we noticed this year that we now see happening in classrooms. There will be, quick do-nows on, which of the following are equivalent. So they're getting used to that reality that, hey, it could look different and still mean the same thing. We have brought in some new science resources to prepare for the state test. We've talked to different districts. What are you using, both for earth science and for the Science 8 test? And we've been using those in Science 8 this year and in earth science. As with every school, we're always reviewing the IEPs and the 504s for any accommodations we have to give a child. Our ongoing team meetings, we meet weekly on the grade level team to address student needs. And we really look at those team meetings and our department meetings as time to figure out how we best meeting needs of students. So one thing that we brought in at the end of last year, which would have been after this presentation, is spending some of that department meeting time. Our teachers had asked for if they could have multi-departments together. So English and social studies getting together at the same time instead of just English, just social studies. Really having that critical dialogue across a few content areas to say, how can we support each other? Because we're busy. It's very difficult with the size of our school to say, oh, here's the time in the day when the entire 6th grade can sit down and talk to each other. It's very difficult. So we reimagined some of our department time for them to do that. Extended days we're using for professional development and writing. Integrating Chromebooks is now a common part of our practice. We're always sharing ideas with each other, and as always, differentiating instruction in all classes. We brought in the Go Math resources for math last year, which provides all sorts of options for how to look at math at different levels, so parents can use it at home, teacher can use it in there. It was one of the largest complaints we had about the modules in mathematics, where there were no resources for parents or students when they went home. So we did bring that in, and we also, our math teachers who teach algebra, both high school and middle school, asked for a new resource for that. So we've brought in a new text, which also has an online component that they've really been able to provide students and families with more resources so they can differentiate to where the child is, as opposed to just, this is the module lesson, you know, use it. Oh, look, we have another slide. Yes, so we are continuing with our Teacher's Choice Summer Reading Program. That's a lot of fun. I run one of those groups. I pick a book, and, you know, and we chat about it when we get back in the fall. And everybody does it. Yes, I buy snacks. Maybe that's why they read. I'm not sure. But they do read, and we discuss. And for me, that's about showing students, modeling what's awesome about reading, right? That all the teachers, we read something, we chat about it, and we get to just have a good time talking about what we read. It's a lot of fun. Summer Scholars continues, and we're going to be looking to look at some other new options for that. I actually have I've had a couple meetings with some vendors on other types of materials we could use in the Summer Scholars program to really help students get that step up that they need. We continue with our extra help. Our responsibility room continues during lunch. Sometimes teachers say, hey, you know what? You're really behind on homework. You need to go to responsibility room and get that done instead of, you know, run around today. And they really get there because there's a teacher there the entire time. They're always creating new resources, which is one of the neat things that's happened with our one-to-one Chromebook implementation, is that teachers are saying, hey, we can create new stuff. And I'm going to find things that other people created, and I'm going to modify them for my use. And it's a lot of fun to see that happen because it enriches the experience for the students. We did last year, that was after this presentation last year, we did work through our accelerated program enrollment criteria. That's on the website. We sent it out to not only just have one way into accelerated mathematics, but we created a second pathway in. The students mature at different times academically. And so for the first time, we had a second level, a second time when students could enter into our accelerated algebra program. We also use the STAR assessment 3 times a year to see where our students are and benchmark them. Chromebooks are in everything, and we are, as always, working on those connections with Colorado High School. Dr. Lenahan has taken the lead on a connection in ELA that trying to make sure that what students are learning at Cotto we're building on, and then what we do in the middle school we build on, so we're not reinventing when we go from building to building. And that's been, thanks to him, that has really taken off this year. I think now I hand it over.
Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to present the high school results, New York State regions. First, mathematics, taking a look at the Common Core algebra. Some points to note, Dr. McDonald referred, these are non-accelerated students. As you can see, we rank in the top 3 or 4. These are non-accelerated. I did look into East Meadow, which is off the charts there at 95%, and basically it looks like their entire 9th grade took the algebra regions in the high school. So I can't say for sure, but I suspect their accelerated students are in there. When the enrollment matches the test-taking numbers, it gives you a clue. Basically, Mr. Albano referred to demographics. You know, East Meadow, I think, has a couple hundred kids in each grade. There's a big difference. In Clarkstown, socioeconomically, they're about 10%, and we're about 24%. We're working to improve this, though. Ms. Georgie's working hard. She did a great job last year. She's working on fractions and decimals in the application process. And vocabulary is critical with the Common Core. I'll give you an example, you know, break-even analysis, fixed cost, variable cost. These are expressions I learned as a freshman in college. And I think it's good the application's there in math. What I saw when I served her classes, one question was a break-even analysis from a businessman's perspective, and then a break-even analysis from a consumer's perspective. If you're going to Playland, you're going to buy tickets, what package should you get to break even? So a lot of, obviously, linguistics is involved. So you can see we're at 70% there. I'll take you through the passing rate first. Geometry is a different story. Basically, we had an option last year between the Common Core geometry and the traditional geometry. As you can see, Ms. Joyce and I decided early, some districts split the difference, but basically the highest grade was going on the transcript. So we decided early in the year, let's focus on the traditional geometry. That's best for the kids, get the highest grade on the transcript. So, you know, we frankly, that's where the 94% shows up. We didn't focus on the Common Core, and you see we're at 63%. You know, again, you know, we're basically, this is a a lot of schools up here offer non-regents geometry for students who are not that successful. So we don't offer that for our students, so all our students are involved there. This year, though, because the test is so rigorous, we did add labs to the geometry classes. So 1 out of every 6 days, there's an additional lab for our students. Algebra 2 trig, what can you say, Mr. Ornstein's here, 100% passing. Again, the use of technology is obviously, you know, a factor there. She went in and brought in flipped lessons into the high school. We'll talk more about that. Let me take you through the mastery. Common Core algebra, you can see the students were not the accelerated ones, so the mastery is obviously not there. 42% for the geometry, traditional geometry, and 55% for Algebra 2 trig. So we're very proud of all the math students from last year. Moving along to English, this is the last year of the traditional English regions. We have 91% passing. Basically, we're now focusing on the new regions, and 47% last year achieved mastery in the high school. So once again, the new tasks are built and focused around the new regions. More reading comprehension, analysis of passages, students learning and persuasive essay, and writing to identify the central idea. So it's a whole new game in English. The teachers are well aware of the new English regions and have been working hard in preparing our students. I should have mentioned in the beginning, these Regents results, the state publishes these results. These include August of 2014, January of 2015, and June of 2015. So, for all schools, not just Tuckahoe. So students who didn't do well in June of 2014 and had to go to summer school are also in these numbers for all the schools. So global studies, 81% passing, U.S. history, 94%. We're working hard in the writing area, mostly in social studies, to make things better. The essay writing, especially coming into 9th and 10th grade, there's more independent work given in the global area, and we're trying to keep the challenged students basically on task with regard to writing. Let me give you the mastery for the social studies. Global studies, 44%. U.S. history, 66% achieved mastery. The 44% of global studies was obviously impacted by the summer school scores. You had kids, August of 2014, they were not shooting for mastery. I wish they would, but they're looking to pass the course they had a problem with the previous year. Moving along, science, earth science, Dr. McDonald talked about. These are students in the high school who are not accelerated in the middle school, and a lot of them have transferred in the 9th grade, 9th and 10th grade, 45%. Biology, outstanding, 95% passing rate. Chemistry, 81%. Again, we're very proud of our chemistry program. Ms. Velocio, we do not offer non-Regents chemistry. And any parent that has had Ms. Velocio know it's a top-flight program, and we're very proud of what she offers. Basically, chemistry, she's still working hard to improve the program. She did a flipped midterm review. She's using unit summaries to post the work, and she's continuously testing throughout the year in a cumulative way. Physics, we got a little work to do, obviously, 76% passing. Basically, what we've done there is provided a more selective enrollment. We had students in there who wanted to work hard but really weren't up to it from a mathematical point of view, so that needs work. We've introduced conceptual physics for those students who are not up to the challenge. Mr. Rodriguez looked at did a Regents analysis, and basically he needs to focus more on the waves. That was 20-point problems that really you need to cover more extensively. He'll be doing that this year. There you see the mastery results for the science department. Again, some outstanding results, especially in biology. AP program, just to give you a little background, AP 3 out of 5 is considered a success in advanced placement. We have open enrollment. Students who want to work hard are invited into the program, and the philosophy is basically a student who works hard and winds up with a 2 out of 5 is better than a student being in an elective program. So English, as you can see, we have a big improvement there. The average score was 3.17. Ms. Malloy did a wonderful job. Students are working more with passage-based problems. There's an AP focus on multiple choice, and she's focusing more on contemporary literature, which she's in her second year learning the curriculum. AP US History, 2.95, just about a 3. Again, we're still, there's a new curriculum out there, so Ms. Whalen is working on pre-Columbus curriculum, reviewing primary source documents. That was an area she felt the students could do better with, and she's actually also introducing flip lessons. AP Government, 3.6. Ms. Heinzen reports working on the writing, so we're very proud of our results. Again, we want to make sure that student writing, we talked about the writing revolution, that's going in district-wide. That should raise all the boats. AP Biology, basically open enrollment impacted this. There was a new curriculum, so Mr. Trey has picked it up this year. He's got a new text, a new review book, and we're working to improve that. 2.6, though, as I said, when you have open enrollment, we prefer students in there working hard as opposed to everybody getting, going into an elective program. AP Chemistry, Ms. Felicio, outstanding program, 2.83. Same again, students in there working hard and basically, preparing themselves for the rigors of college. AP Italian, we need work to do here. I've talked to Ms. Viro, and basically she is working hard this year to improve that result. She basically is collaborative with other AP teachers. With the first year teaching last year. She basically has raised the bar for herself. She's put more writing and persuasive essays in there. She's doing more listening in authentic situations for the Italian students. So, and she went and took a 1-week course in AP instruction this summer to improve those results. Spanish, again, we have 3.0 out of 5. Which we want to do a little bit better. However, we're glad with that. Mr. Murphy is a new teacher in that, and he basically is working hard to maintain that and raise the bar slightly. His assignments are in line with the exam format. He's got conversation, audio passages, and basically he'll be taking a summer AP program this summer. AP Psychology, again, the trend is rising upward. Mr. Pappas' results, technology is improving his instruction. He basically gave the students more intense summer work to really raise the bar. What's not here is because we only had one student. Ms. Capretti's in the room. We have AP Art. Because of privacy, we don't have a graph on that. I can tell you it is well above 3. Thank you, Ms. Capretti. And as you can see, if you just came from the award ceremony, she runs a terrific program. AP Calc, Ms. Ornstein is in the room. 3.6 is the average. Outstanding results. She also does the super program with Syracuse, and basically a number of students receive college credit through that. Some, performance outcomes from 2015. As everybody's aware, we're recognized as a high-performing award school by New York State. We're fortunate to receive a grant for previous years' award schools from 2012 through 2014. Last year's graduating class, 56% received advanced Regents diplomas. 70% of our college acceptances were from Tier 1 and Tier 2 colleges and universities. U.S. News & World Report late last spring named us a top 5 high school in New York State. And last year's graduates in the cohort, 22% were recognized as AP scholars. They took, 3 APs or more. And 4 seniors were AP scholars with distinction, which means they took 5 APs and had a 3.5 average. And this is the June results here. More than 45% of the high school students achieved mastery on biology, algebra 2 trig, English, U.S. history, and global history exams. SAT results, again, the trend is upward. We're up 24 points, continuing to embed the SAT curriculum in our school program. Some information, in 2015, if you had an 85 average, you averaged 1647 on the SATs. By diploma, 21%, 1807 on the SATs. Advanced regions, which was 42%, 1547, and here's we need work to do, 1345 for those students who just received the Regents diploma. Similar national trends, though, 23% of the students who took the SAT exam were classified as at the poverty status, and they scored 238 points below their classmates. So we have work to do there as far as entrance exams. 11% of the graduates entered the district after grade 8 or later, and they averaged 27 points less than their classmates. Some of the things we're doing, as you're well aware, some of the parents, we transitioned to the new SAT. We maximize practice for our juniors. We offer them the old SAT practice exam in September during the teacher conference day. We gave the PSAT, which reflects the new SAT. And we gave a practice ACT the day before Thanksgiving for students, so they're all familiar with that. The reward grant funding, basically we've used that for SAT and ACT tutoring for our juniors at private companies, C2 and Jumpstart. Some of the things we're doing ongoing in SAT preparation, calculator to use, is parallel with the SAT calculator use. Sometimes you can use, sometimes you can't. Integrate the practice SAT questions, practice tests in non-Regents classes, Common Core approaches similar to the SAT, and some test prep work. In the ELA department, Castle Learning and method test prep are used, vocabulary is reviewed in context, and there's a passage base of multiple choice practice. And teachers are offering giving the practice exam in reading comprehension. College acceptances, I alluded to them before. You can see total acceptances 2015, Tier 1, 20%, Tier 2, 50%, Tier 3, 28%, and Tier 4, 2%. So we're proud of that. The guidance department and teachers have worked hard. We want to continue maintaining at 70% and keeping going higher. Graduation rate, basically 97%. We're very proud of that for the cohort. One of the things with a small school is we should have a high graduation rate. It's a personalized approach. Students who are at risk, we want to make sure they stay in the program and get that diploma. Some support items. This is things that I've updated since last year. I'm not going to repeat what we've been doing. I think everybody's well aware. Basically we're in phase 2 of technology, so we're exploring the websites and software to enhance knowledge. We're looking at instructional approaches. Now that we're in phase 2, Ms. Ornstein brought back from the Syracuse University Professional Development the idea of a flipped lesson. Just to give you an overview, it's basically the lecture is videotaped and the students review the lecture aspect at home. 15, 20 minutes. Ms. Ornstein, a lot of teachers personalize it toward that specific class. And then so that's their homework. They come in and they do the work they would be doing at home with a teacher there to support them. So, it's research-based, blended lessons, combining technology with frontal instructions. Here's something that came out of my discussion with teachers. Efficiencies of class procedures and routines have increased instructional time. In other words, the time you used to take hand in your papers, switch your papers. Those 5 or 10 minutes every period now are used for instruction because they're just sending it, into Google Classroom. So I don't know the exact number. Nobody really knows, but we're estimating between 5 and 15%. One of the teachers commented to me he'll have more time to review at the end of the year this year because of technology and the routines and procedures of papers and everything else in the classroom is now minimized. Continue to enhance assessment approaches. The new teacher support model, Dr. Mosier and Mr. Moore are working hard in improving the teacher skills as far as technology. And with technology comes improved assessment approaches and more frequent feedback from the staff and the students. The writing revolution we've already commented about. Mr. Albano will have more to say about that. Collegial visits, teachers learning from teachers. Dr. McDonald alluded to this, basically K-12 articulation. 612 teachers have met on the Cottle Reading Wonders program. We're having a meeting with the 5th grade teachers through 12 on ELA on March 16th. And basically, we've had 6 through 12 meetings across all disciplines. Communication is ongoing. Outside professional development, social studies, Common Core, teachers have went out to learn more about that. Advanced placement support, I've alluded to that. Technology benchmarking, James and Kathy are on that. And the Syracuse University Professional Development with Ornstein and Ms. Georgia here, they beg me to go every year to come back with new knowledge for the building. And of course, data analysis of regions was where we, obviously where we want to go forward. So that's the high school report. Thank you. Mr. Albano?
Yes. But before we go to questions, we should have flipped those slides around. Just a quick summary. We're breaking with past format for strategic plan updates. In the past, we always talked about the specific goals and progress towards the goals, but this was such a comprehensive presentation. And really, if you were listening carefully, and if you remember the strategic plans, particularly the student outcomes, everything was covered at one time or another by the 3 principals. They did, I think, an excellent job. But in summary, the student outcomes strategic plan had these 6 categories, and I just quickly, you heard about closing the achievement gap. I think the validation is that our high school for 3 years in a row was recognized as a reward school. You know, one time, you may be lucky. Twice, maybe coincidence. But 3 consecutive years. In the state, I think it's important to understand, and I heard this repeatedly from Dr. Linehan, we encourage our students. We have open enrollment for AP. We have students, we're not offering non-regions. We will push them to challenge themselves and take regions. That is not the case in other high schools. Some do, but many don't. And they're concerned about their final scores and student performance and how it reflects on the district. We believe it's more important to challenge our students. So the state, fortunately, recognizes that. When they calculate which schools, and they analyze your data, they consider how many regions courses our students are taking, because the minimum is 5, and some schools will stop there. But we have many students who maybe are weaker in their skills, but we will have them taking 6 or 7 regions, and that weighs very heavily in our favor. So the 3 years of reward school status, I think, is very strong validation, and I'm glad there was a $75,000 reward. And there was some talk of just concentrating that money in the high school, but the faculty and Dr. Linehan agreed, let's try to use it district-wide, because really the reward school status, it's a district-wide initiative. And what happens at the earlier grades definitely translates over into the upper grades. You heard a lot about data analysis. This is looking at summative data, but there's a flip side to that. We're doing a much better job with formative assessments, assessments for learning. And I think my father mentioned, but it's at the middle school and the high school as well, the STAR assessment, which is a valid, reliable, normed assessment. On some grade levels, the norm population is about 1 million students. And this is our online assessment that we give 3 times a year to find out what students need to learn. And that's a powerful thing that teachers are using more and more. I can tell you I see it all the time at parent meetings, at 504 meetings, at IST meetings, at CSE meetings, and it's been very helpful and day-to-day in the classroom. The sustainability of student support systems, this goal more or less looked at the things we put in place. How are we measuring? Are we going back and looking? When we implement a program like Reading Wonders or Envisions Math, are we seeing the results? And I think the answer is yes. The trends are up. Is there more work to do? The answer is, of course, yes. But I think we see this consistent trend up, and we're proud of that, and I think we need to continue to build on that. SAT, I think Dr. Linehan did a great job of showing a lot of what goes on behind SAT. Part of the Reward School grant money, we are offering SAT courses to our high school students. Now that's great, but we've also talked about, in some cases a typical SAT course may run 18 hours or 30 hours even. But a student is in the classroom 900 hours per year. And we have to look at that as well. A 30-hour SAT course is important, and we're still offering that as much as possible. But what about the 900 hours of instruction every year? And we've done a lot better job, I believe, at aligning what we do to help them be successful later on the SATs. And I think that trend will continue to go up. The writing revolution is key. It's probably the one initiative that every teacher, and I can tell you the momentum and the positive reaction to our kickoff, which was last month, has been incredible. And we're seeing it already in the classrooms. The training will continue throughout next year. And of course, there's the writing portion of the SAT, but there's writing on every major assessment. And of course, these are skills for life. College placement, again, I won't be repetitive. You heard that in Dr. Linehan's presentation. He showed you the tier 1 and tier 1 and tier 2 schools that we're getting better acceptances into. I think our counselors are doing an outstanding job, and we're always looking for ways to improve as well. And finally, this one, F, we checked this off last year. Dr. McDonald, Dr. Linehan worked with our former superintendent, Dr. Nuzzi, just to create a more clear entrance criteria for students and their parents and our staff to get into the accelerated courses. And I like what Dr. McDonald said, just to emphasize that there's not one path. If you don't get in at the middle school level, there is still an opportunity. If a child isn't developmentally ready, or if they're not mature, there's still another opportunity to take accelerated courses later in high school, and I think we've done a good job with that as well. So that is a quick summary, and now I believe, and questions from the board, from our audience, for any one of us, including me.
Well, why don't we come back up, and if the board has questions, they can share those with you. All right, well, thank you so much for a robust presentation. I know there was a lot to take in. We had the opportunity to see some of this information ahead of time, but I do know that, as is traditional these days, we will be posting these slides and this information on our website for the members of the community to access it there. With that, I'll just open it up to the board with any questions that they might have.
I have a comment, and the comment is, to Julio's point, I thought about this during the presentation, so I had a chance to look at these slides before getting the verbal behind it, and I probably interpret them a little bit differently. So what I would ask for our principals maybe is to footnote some of those slides. So some of the important information, like with the earth science story about the 9th grade earth science kids taking earth science in 8th grade, I think we need to footnote that, because I don't think a lot of people are going to watch this and tape to try to get the knowledge. They'll go on the website, they'll see district score card, or whatever we're going to call the file. They're going to click on it and start just flipping through those slides, and it'll cause panic, where panic may not be needed. The other point I wanted to make is, there's a lot of improvement that I've seen, and a great job to our administrators, our teachers, our kids. You can certainly see that there's a lot of hard work going behind. There's a lot of work that goes behind looking at these scores. The last I want to mention, I think I mentioned this last year too, the one thing that always troubles me when I see these scores is the poverty level kids at the high school just not performing as well as the kids that are socioeconomically a little bit in a better situation. That hurts. I'd hate to see that kids whose parents struggle and don't have the same opportunity maybe financially as others are scoring almost 238 points, I think it was, 36 points lower. We need to do something, and I don't know what the answer is to that. But we need, as a board, as a school district, as a community, to rally around these kids and these families to get them up, because they should have the same opportunity to do well in school as any other child has. And I hate every year coming here and having to explain our scores because of socioeconomic levels. We shouldn't have to do that. I think as a community, and not only a school district, but as a community, we need to rally around these kids and these families to do what we have to do to help these kids get to the same level as the kids that aren't in that situation. I don't know what that answer is, but I would love to see more of a think tank around that. And I challenge all of our administrators to think about that and what can we do to help these kids out, because it hurts me to think that there's kids that aren't scoring as well because they're socioeconomical. That's just a sad situation. And I think this community is such a family-driven type of community. We can all help out each other to try to figure out something to get these kids up to that level. So just that comment.
Okay. Anybody else?
I just had one comment really, and well, I mean, Ms. Ornstein's here, and I don't want to embarrass her because I know she hates this, but when you look at the presentation, I just think there are places that we are doing so well, and we should really use those as models for some of the other areas that we're not doing so well. And just having 3 children go through the high school, and I know what they are, I could rattle them off to you, but things that are successful in her classroom, Julio has said this before, the email communication with parents, Dr. Linehan touched on it, the professional development, the going that extra mile in some of these areas. And I just think that we should be looking at where we're doing well, and we should be modeling that in other areas. And I don't know how we do that. Right now we're in a budget process. I would be in support of, teachers taking on these leadership roles. I don't know what the model would be to do that, but I would definitely think this board would be open to hearing that. And really, teachers working with other teachers. I know their time is, where do they find the time to do that? So there has to be another way to do it. And I think we as a board need to support that and find out how to do it. My other comment is regarding the AP courses. I am a supporter that it's open enrollment. Having my kids go through the college application process. I know schools look for students who take more rigorous courses, who challenge themselves. That is definitely something I'm in support of. But I do think that we need to be giving our teachers who are teaching these classes more support, more professional development. I don't know if it's a option to get the professional. I know you mentioned that some of the teachers are going over the summer, or if it's mandatory that they get that before they teach these courses. Because we are so small, many of our teachers teach several different classes, and I know firsthand that some are teaching these classes for the first time. And so what is the support that they're getting to be successful before they get into the classroom? That's really important. And we need to be supporting them, giving them the time they need to do that, and making sure that they're equipped with everything they need to be successful so the kids could be successful. I mean, that's just something that I see as a parent, and it shows really in the scores.
No, we echo that. I think the problem, especially in the foreign language department, is summer hires. Ms. Conti left last year. She was doing the AP Spanish. So Mr. Murphy comes in late August, and by the time you get geared up, so, we've been supporting him, and, he will be taking a course this summer. I've already talked to him. So, and Ms. Firo, the same thing. We hired her in late August. So, again, we got to maintain the foreign language staff. That would be a big help, to really with the AP issue. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I would just like to say thank you to the three principals for putting the slides together, and Mr. Albano also for touching up on the outcomes. I know our students work hard, and they try their best. I can only imagine what middle school was like during last year's testing, having middle school children. But, with that said, and I would like to echo Steve and what Michelle has said also, but even more so with Steve and our population, that they need that extra help. Maybe we need to get some outside community sources who maybe live in the village and can possibly help us out a little bit more with those students. And I would like to have these students also take some responsibility also. I would love to see these students to make sure that they come if they're 11th and 12th graders that are going to be taking the SATs and the ACT, that they are coming for their classes. And so I know that we do walk for it. It's Saturday classes, and I had a child who, she did not like to come on Saturday classes, but, as a parent, I did encourage her a lot. But, sometimes we may have to possibly go to the students instead of, them coming up here. Maybe the school's too far, maybe we have to do something closer into the village to support them there. But, I think overall, our school is definitely, we have high points and low points, and we just got to really work together. And I think we are definitely seeing that. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add, following up on Kathy and Steve's comments, Dr. Linehan and Dr. Wilson and I have partnered. It's funny that you bring that up. We've partnered with Reverend Coleman from Shiloh Baptist Church, and he had access to a grant. And this summer, the grant is for summer support for students who may be socioeconomically disadvantaged. So we are hoping to have 20 students in the high school work for 5 weeks with a certified teacher, shoring up their skills, helping prepare them for some of these rigorous courses. So I think that is a step in the right direction. That is something that we believe is a reality, and we're working out the final details. But it builds on Dr. Avina, about 3 years ago, did propose what we call now the Summer Scholars Program, and that's at the middle school level. And last year, Dr. McDonald, I want to say about 27 or 28 middle school students did participate. They got 3 weeks of instruction from our certified teachers, mornings only, and that is important because families that have the means will provide opportunities in the summer. But sometimes if you're not able to, students are not continuing to read and to educate themselves and to have these rich experiences. So I think the school has made some good inroads there, and we hope to do more.
Great.
Did you have any comments before we close up? I just wanted to make a couple of points too. To Stephen's point, we're I think that, it's certainly an important step that we're taking. I think, Dr. McDonald, was in your slide, how you talk about the mindset training. And I think that, over the years, I remember when I first came on the board, it seemed that we used these economically disadvantaged kids as an excuse for doing poorly with no follow-up, and so what are we going to do about that? And so I think just the fact that we recognize that we're not doing as well as perhaps we'd like to be in a number of different areas, but acknowledging that, and trying to find solutions, I think is going to go a long way in continuing that upward trend in all our schools for all our kids. And I think that while it's no panacea, certainly the board's support of the mentor program, is a step towards that, learning best practices. And I don't want to put Ms. Ornstein on the spot again, but I will. And Ms. Georgie, you do a great job too. But there's this one particular thing that I appreciate from Ms. Ornstein, that she has taught or has asked her mentee to model, and that's my middle school student getting an email from the teacher saying, here's what's coming up, here's what to expect, here's where we're at. And again, it really helps me as a parent to be one of the partners in our child's education, and I think that that's something that has been missing in the past, and certainly something that we welcome. So with that, again, I'll ask that the information is posted on the website. Any closing comments, Dr. Wilson?
Well, I think some good comments have been made. Going back to Michelle's point, I think that was well taken, and the fact that you brought on board so many AP courses just in the past couple of years. Teachers do need to be trained, and I know you gave some examples, and I know for some teachers it might have been the first time, just in the last year or two, that they've been teaching an AP. It sometimes takes several years to be an effective AP teacher, but certainly the money needs to be found for those teachers who are still going through the learning process of curriculum, and always with the APs, you've got to keep sending people to know how they change and so forth. So that's a very good point. I think the Stevens point also was very well taken. Bear in mind the fact that these rewards schools, that the recognition that the high school got does in itself reflect that the high school, that the Tuckahoe is doing a lot better in that area than a lot of other places. Now, of course, more should be done. And the beauty to this is that you're only halfway through the strategic plan. If you actually look at the list of activities to be achieved, there are many more things to do. Now, a big thing to do in terms of this issue of the economically disadvantaged is to look at best practices. There are some I would still love to see this school import, and that is going to take time and commitment to do that. But there are ideas out there, and of course, Carl gave an excellent example of something we're just now initiating. So, the thing is to keep working at this. Proverbial Rome wasn't built. But I will say that what I think has been terrific for the school district has been the Chromebooks, because there was a great inequality in that, with some kids having more or less access, some having no access to that kind of technology. Now, all of our kids, certainly on the secondary level, do. And last but not least, I'm very glad to hear the two teachers who are here being acknowledged, because they are terrific. And this is an example of what good teachers we have here. But we're so fortunate to have both Angela and Joanne here, for sure.
Great. So with that, thank you all for coming. And I just want to remind the trustees that we will be resuming executive session for interviews in Dr. Wilson's office. We'll see you in a couple of weeks at our next board meeting. Good night. Thank you.